our website. So first of all, welcome everyone again, and thank you so much for joining us. The State of the Industry report going into its second phase now has been the hard work of our Department of Development, and it has become a way of taking the pulse of the industry and providing us all with really interesting information on recent trends, on long-term developments, and to really reflect on where breeding is going worldwide and on our role in it. And so I'm tremendously looking forward to tonight. I think my job is going to be to share the slides and move them forward as I'm being directed by our main presenters. And I would very much like to introduce the team to you now. So the first person I would like to talk about is our unsung hero, and that is Nadine. Nadine has been with us since 2016 as our general manager. And frankly, she has been the heart, the soul, and the brain of our operation, without a shadow of a doubt, holding together all the different strands, always working in the background, and really, I just wanted to say a big thank you from us. I think from the Department of Development as well, for all her support in this, and for helping us really to create these wonderful and interesting projects, and always doing so with a big smile on her face as well. So thank you, Nadine, and thank you for joining us tonight. I would like to also thank Cass. Now, Cass is from New Zealand. She has a PhD in biological sciences, so she has got an enormous amount of research experience, and she has been invaluable in creating this report, because it is really that experience in research and in data analysis and data collection that has been, central to the continued development of the State of the Industry report. So a big thank you from us to Cass. And then I would like to introduce our other two presenters, the Department of Development, which is Renai, our Vice President. She's from the New Zealand Hanoverian stud book, and she's been a president there for a number of years. She's, however, also a very passionate breeder and owner and rider of dressage horses herself. So somebody who's really experienced the sport and breeding from all angles, and has been, a great addition to our team, and a great pleasure that you're here. What time is it for you at the moment, Renai? I always lose track.
It has just gone 5 a.m. in the morning.
5 a.m. in the morning. Goodness me. See, that's real determination and passion and commitment. So thank you so much, Renai, for being here. And then, of course, Katie Holder-Vale. Katie is the Executive Director of the Development Department. She is also with the Hanoverian Society, but the British Daughter Society of the Hanoverians. And again, she's been a wonderful addition to the World Breeding Federation, a passionate breeder, but also somebody who works across many stud books, and as an invaluable evaluator, for example, the British Breeding Futurity, which she's just finished, and she still looks roughly alive, which is great. And she's really been someone who has supported breeders and breeding across stud books. And it's wonderful to see her doing that work now on the international stage, as well as nationally, of course, for us here in Great Britain. And I believe she's also been abroad and judged really all over the world. So again, somebody who I think really understands the global dimension of breeding. So thank you so much, Katie, for being here with us tonight. Now, I believe my job is to try and share the presentation slides now. So I shall endeavor to do so, and I'm hoping I won't muck it up. But if I do, just give me a shout, and I'll, if I need to, can always move forwards or backwards. Can everybody see this? Does this look okay? Hello?
Yep, that's good.
Fantastic, super. Okay, so I'm going to hand over then to Renai, Katie, and Cass. And and everybody else, I hope you enjoy our presentation.
Thank you very much, Eva. Good morning and good evening to everyone else. And Eva's pretty much said everything that we would have said. But once again, I'd like to thank all of our department. It's been a huge team effort to get this together. And thank you all for taking the time to register and attend our webinar. So in this part, we intend to just we'll give you an overview of our report, and then everything will be published and you'll see all the true workings and everything else that will go with it, all the statistics. So let's go to the next slide, please. So our objectives were to create the constructive and productive engagement between the WBFSH, stud books, breeders, and the FEI and the national federations, and to provide the current state of the industry. And we've had plenty of emerging challenges. Also, a very, very big focus on welfare and social license to operate, which will be a bit of a discussion at the end of our report here. We're also going to provide the relevant information and try and develop the industry even further as a team, as a global team, which I think is, super important. So next screen. Okay, so this screen here, this was the returns of our statistics. So there was 86 members that returned data from our survey. And this graph will show you where our members are situated throughout the world. I think you can see the small little numbers, but it was pretty impressive, and it's getting better each year. So if we go to slide 4, you will see there was actually a very positive increase in engagement with our members returning the data. So we would like to thank each and every one that returned that data. We cannot have true and correct figures for our SOI report without the important information. So this all forms part of our report. So, and accuracy is the key. So as we go along, if there's something that's a little bit inaccurate, some of it's got to do with some of the returns of the survey, but we have ironed out as many as we could. But yeah, you can see that. So for this stage, for these next few slides, I'm actually going to hand you over to Nadine to do these part of the statistics. Nadine?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in and do those stats because a lot of them we collected through the annual reports that I deal with. What we've got first here is the foal numbers from non-European countries. It was easier to split it up between European and non-European because we've got so many members. What was interesting here is that Brazil has a really high number of foals. The dark green is 2022 foals, and then going back 2021 and 2020. So Brazil and USA have a similar number of foals. And Chile didn't report anything in 22. That's why you don't see a green bar there. But there was no other big surprises about the statistics of the non-European countries. What we do see is an increase in 22 compared to previous years, which is a good thing. It shows that our industry is growing. More foals are being born. Eva, you can change slides. So here we've got the European countries. You can see the ones that stand out are Germany has the highest number of foals. In the last year, in 2022, over 20,000 foals born in Germany. Germany has 14 members that are in the World Breeding Federation, so they are the country with the biggest number of warm blood foals. Then the next highest country is the Netherlands. There's 3 stud books in the Netherlands, the biggest one there being KWPN. KWPN breeds about 10,000 foals a year, and the rest of them come from the KFPS, which is the Friesians, and the NRPS. Then the next 2 countries that come in quite similar is Belgium and Spain. Now, Belgium has 3 members in the World Breeding Federation, of which Zangersheide is the biggest one and contributes to the biggest number of foals in Belgium. And then we've got a very large number of foals born in Spain, and that's almost exclusively in the Pura Raza Español. Even though we have 2 members in Spain, we've got the Spanish Anglo-Arab as well, but they're a relatively small stud book. France comes in next at about 8,500, 9,000 foals. That's 2 members that we have there, the biggest one being Celle Français. And then we've got obviously the Anglo-Arabs as well. And then again, what we can note here is that the numbers in 2022 are higher than in previous years, which also indicates that there's been a growth in the number of foals. So next slide, please, Eva. Okay, so here we've got, it says European breeding techniques. We did an analysis of obviously the European and the non-European. More of the detail of this is going to be in the published report. So we're just giving you an initial overview of what we found. And basically 90% of stud books use artificial insemination. That's fresh and chilled semen, but also frozen semen. And what was surprised, so you can see here that the same number of stud books more or less use chilled and fresh semen as well as frozen. But then the first bar on the left shows that 80% of stud books are still using, or the breeders in those stud books are still using live cover, which was a really high figure. We weren't expecting that. But when we looked at the frequency of live cover use, then 40% of stud books reported that the frequency is rarely used or never used, rarely used or very rarely used. And that is expected because we do see that breeders have adopted more advanced breeding techniques. So we also analyzed the statistics on a regional basis, and artificial insemination. Oh yes, sorry, I just see that there's a comment from someone in France that is absolutely correct. We have 3 members in Spain. The one that I forgot, sorry about that, was the Spanish sport horse. Thank you for that comment. Right, so back to artificial insemination, which is the most used breeding technique. There's a similar use or similar frequency of use of fresh and frozen semen, or fresh and chilled and frozen semen. 52% of European stud books reported that they use artificial insemination in more than half of all coverings. And in the Asia Pacific region, we found that that was 25 to 50%. But we did see that in Europe, there's still more fresh and chilled semen used than frozen semen. And that can be attributed to the fact that transport distances between European countries permit the use of fresh and chilled semen, whereas in the Asia Pacific regions, they probably rely a lot on frozen semen if they want to be using EU-based stallions. Then looking at embryo transfer, 77% of European stud books reported that embryo transfer is used, and all the stud books that replied to the survey from the Asia Pacific country, they all said that embryo transfer is used, so that would have been 100% return. The African and South American stud books didn't give us any feedback on that. Across the board, though, the frequency of embryo transfer was about 10% of coverings, so that shows that most males are still carrying their own foals. And then looking at ICSI and OPU, 35% of European countries or stud books reported that they use this breeding technique, but the frequency of it is under 10%. And in the Asia Pacific region, there were 3 stud books out of 4 that answered that said that they use OPU ICSI, but again, the frequency was under 10% there. So still not a very large used technique. Obviously, that could be related to the cost that's involved with that as well. And then cloning was the last breeding technique that we looked at. This one here, the slide is for European, but for the world over, cloning is not used very much at all. Actually, 60% of all the stud books reported that they do not permit cloning. 3 stud books that did say that they use cloning or permit cloning said that less than 10% of coverings come from cloning. And of course, with cloning, there is also the consideration in terms of ethical considerations, but also welfare considerations. Are there perhaps health implications for cloned animals? There's still a lot of research to come from that area. What does need to be said is that clones are permitted to compete in FEI competitions. So that's what we found on breeding techniques, and there'll be more on that in the published report when that comes out. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, the State of the Industry second edition. So we obviously from here highlight the snapshot of our industry today. And just to reiterate, if every stud book returns accurate and complete data for the annual report, then even more value for improved interpretation can be given to the State of the Industry report. So it's, once again, information is key. Additional value data collection comes from other entities such as breeders and national federations. So, and I know that we've been working hard with all the national federations to try and get this streamlined. So each and every one of us and our stud books, if we can interact with our national federations and try and get this pushed through, it's going to make life easier, and we can have more data and more statistics to bring to everybody moving forward. So next slide, please. Okay, so again, horse health. Horse health is a huge animal welfare, and we know, every one of us know going forward, healthy horses lead to longevity for both horses and sport. And we really want to promote the practice of a good life for horses. And that comes in lots of different forms. Katie will be talking about that very shortly with a study that she's been heavily involved with. Next slide, please. So in the published report, you're going to see we've been really lucky to be able to get some studies and research from Dr. Stephanie Valberg on shivers. And it's a little bit of a minefield, is the shivers. So as you'll see on this slide, we've just picked out a few little bullet points to go forward with, but you will see the full report and statistics in the published report. So there was no point putting the whole report here, so we just picked a few points out. Next one, please. As the same as we've done with the fragile foal syndrome, and that's been interesting because there's actually been a lot of new information written about fragile foals. So once again, this is just a few bullet points, the positive effects of the carriers, how it's untreatable. Yeah, so again, you will see the full reports and the statistics in the published report. Next slide, please. And this is another one, the PSSM1 and PSSM2, another very interesting study. We've also been lucky enough to get a lot of the research and statistics from some really wonderful professors. So again, that will be in the published report. So I think everyone will find it very, very interesting. I know everyone can find this information, but we went back to the professors and we, got a lot of their studies. So we think it's really important that we put it up because it's it's something that all us breeders need to buy into and look at, I guess. So next slide. As the same with the PSSM2, which is a little bit, different, and there's a lot more study going into that as well. So yeah, so we'll see what comes out, and I think you'll enjoy what you read in the published report as well. Okay, so using peer-review specific science allows the WBFS members to continue to breed and produce healthy horses as per our previous slides. We hope that we've given you a lot of information to go forward with. Through education and information, we can improve our overall horsemanship and the long-term well-being of the horse, which is, first and foremost. Next one, please. Okay, so for this side, I'm going to actually hand you over to Katie, our Executive Director, because she's been doing a lot of work. So yeah, I'll let her go through the animal welfare part. There you go,
okay,
Katie.
So for animal welfare, we've looked at it in a really big way. I'll just read what we have here. We're understanding the needs of members and public expectations, obligations of stud books and federations, legislation and codes of practice around animal welfare. And we're trying to create a snapshot of global perception of animal welfare. And we need more transparency to appeal to a more welfare conscious industry. We're undertaking a very large animal welfare project as breeders, and we're hoping it'll be titled Best Breeding Practice, because we feel that when you say welfare, it sounds a bit like there is something wrong in the world of our horse breeding, and it isn't. We're just trying to have more scientific education, gather in a lot of scientific documents from all over the world. And we have a project that has just started in collaboration with Hartpury University, which is a very large university in England, and they have a very big horse department, and also they are working in a very big way looking at horse welfare and also breeding. So we have a project with them which has just started in September, and I believe it's going to go right through. It's going to take us about 1.5 years to collect everything together. But I'm hoping when we do our next State of the Industry report, we will give you some of the progress of what we are finding and what we will put together. And in the long term, we will make a presentation on the website of what we feel is the best practice in breeding. So it's a bit of a long journey, and we're hoping that we can look at this in a more scientific way. We have great help from Jane Williams, who is a professor at Hartpury University, and she's very upbeat, and she's going to hopefully get a master's undergraduate to help us with this project. And I think it's going to be very exciting and important to the industry. So this is our plans for our animal welfare statement on best breeding. So we go to the next slide. Okay, so we have been looking at several different things, and you'll see when you see the whole report, but there's a very big report on the scientific basis of alleviating weaning stress. There's been a study of feral and semi-natural herds, and the decreasing maternal deprivation, social isolation, abrupt environmental and nutritional changes, decreasing stress hormones and long-term adverse behaviours. And we were very lucky that Professor Natalie Warren, she presented a webinar for us, and you can find this on the YouTube channel. But we also have the documentation that goes with this, with our State of the Industry report. I mean, I personally watched it. I thought it was fascinating. And it's great to see that science has been applied to our breeding techniques. And over many years, people had lots of different opinions about how you should wean your horses and your foals, but it's better to be looking at it in a scientific way. We go to the next. Okay, so the social license to operate, we have talked about this in great detail. It's the process by which horse breeders, trainers, and other industry professionals gain the approval and the acceptance of society at large. There are big threats to our horse sport. We have to be very careful of public disquiet about animal welfare, and we need to enhance animals' quality of life and ethics-based welfare approaches to keeping animals that are used in recreation. And we have to point out that the enhances in technology, scientific knowledge, stakeholder engagement, and public relations and public scrutiny. It's very important that we make a good presentation to the world about how we handle our horses and how we look after them. And it's up to us to tell the world the good things that we're doing with horses. You know, we're very subject to social media these days, and we need to be very careful what we do and what we put out in the world. And I think, you know, we have to be very careful. We don't want to be losing more of our sport. Okay, so we need to maintain our social license to operate. And we got to earn it and make trust with the industry stakeholders and include the public and tell the public what we're doing. We need to tell the public about the good things in our breeding practices. So with the State of the Industry, our second edition, we wanted to create a world environment for the good life of the horse, create sustainability for our industry through good leadership and positive practices, and be able to have open and honest discussions to allow our industry to survive and evolve. Yeah, and this is our last slide. So I think I'll hand you back to Renee. She's got some things to say at the end.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Nadine, and everybody. I just wanted to add a little bit to the conclusion. I think we have tried to focus on the issues at the forefront of our industry, and we are very, very grateful for the professors and professionals that have offered us their studies and research for some of our content. And we obviously are all still in touch with them, so we can still have a chat as you know, going forward. We feel this was very beneficial to our breeders and studbook members, as we're all facing very similar challenges worldwide. We feel providing education and information about the positive aspects of owning horses, their contribution to society, to the people that work with them every day in different ways, whether you just love your horse for your pet, whether it be therapy or purely for just the love of the horse. Sustainability of the equine industry as public perception and concerns about animal welfare throughout the world and environmental impact will continue to evolve. And admittingly, we have had some challenges, ups and downs, but you know what? There's a lot of really, really good things about our industry and the people in our industry. And sometimes it seems that we're always on the back foot. And what we also hoped to do with our State of the Industry, with some of the studies, is put us on the front foot going forward. And I think we've got a wonderful bunch of members through the WBFSH, and I think working together, we've got some good stuff going forward. So, and thank you all very, very much for attending and listening. And we really look forward to publishing our full report for you all to see. Now I will hand back to Eva, and I think we got some questions, some Q&A. So once again, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you so much, Renee. I know you had to sort of gallop through this, pardon the pun. There's been a lot of ground to cover in a very short space of time. And I think a nice way of starting us off with some important thinking points. So if anybody here has got any questions, please do not hesitate to pop them in the chat. And we'd absolutely love to hear from you. And that's your chance here now to ask those questions directly. And we can't emphasize enough the importance of actually reading the report when it's published on our website, because there will be a lot more detail in there, and especially the data behind a lot of the of what you've seen today will be visible there, so that you can understand the underlying workings. I think it's been really fascinating to see. And one thing that we've learned, I think, this year is that our members and our breeders take welfare really to heart and really seriously, and are very keen to learn and understand how they each individually can have a positive impact on the well-being of our horses. It was particularly gratifying to see how many people signed up for the weaning webinar. And even after the webinar had finished, we had a lot of people asking to access the recordings, and a few people disappointed that they'd missed it. And so to me, that was a really positive message, which is that breeders across the world really want to do the best for their horses. It is quite clear that breeders absolutely love their horses. And if there's anything that science can do to help them to do an even better job at managing them, then they're always very keen to hear about it. And I think that positive attitude and that willingness to learn and to engage, and to perhaps sometimes also be a little bit challenged in existing perceptions is a really, really nice thing for us. And I think it's something that we are very keen as an organization to pick up and continue to work with. Now, Nadine, have you seen, because while I was screen sharing, I couldn't actually see any questions. So have you seen any questions for us to put to the panel?
I have not seen any questions, so that's, I guess it's a good thing. We've been so clear that there are no questions. I see a comment from Chris Kendall. He says, congratulations on a successful edition. I will look forward to reading the full report. It is interesting to focus on the social aspects of the industry since it may play a large role in breeding management. I was also interested to compare the breeding methods across countries and stud books. Yes, so to go into what Edward says, very interesting with the breeding methods. We were interested in that as well. What obviously would improve our report in the future was if we could get even more information back from stud books, national federations, whoever we send our surveys to try and collect data. The more information we get back, the better obviously our future reports can be. But yeah, thank you for that comment, Edward.
I think that's a very good point from a stud book perspective. We tend to, when a survey comes in, it's always a little bit, oh, I've got more important things to do right now. And the problem is maybe it doesn't look urgent at that point, but it is still important. So let's all make an extra effort to get our responses in. Another thing that I think is important to highlight, this is the report really for the industry, for our members and for all our breeders. So if anybody has got particular questions, would like to explore things further, would like to engage directly, I think I'm right in saying we are here to listen. And we're here to, to talk to every single one. Anybody across the world who's got an interest in breeding or who is a breeder is very welcome to engage proactively with the work of the State of the Industry report. So let's hear from all of you about your thoughts, about your ideas, and also about what you might want to find out more about, because it's always interesting to hear what people want to learn about. I mean, it was so interesting when we did the weaning webinar that it was such a big topic, and lots of questions from people. And I'm sure there are other topics out there that we could explore. And we have got, I think, the support of so many fantastic scientists. So thank you for highlighting that as well in the report. We've been truly blessed, I think, with some excellent scientists who very generously actually given their time and their expertise to help us all.
Yeah, thank everyone. Thank you very much, Eva, for doing the moderating. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Nadine, and all the members. Some that got up early, and some it's the start of their evening.
We've recorded this, and it will be available on our website as well, the recording, and on our YouTube channel. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and thank you very much.